If you keep feeling drawn to ancient knowledge, here's why. Have you ever felt a deep, unshakable pull toward ancient knowledge, toward lost civilizations, sacred texts, forgotten wisdom? Have you ever looked at symbols from ancient cultures and felt something stir inside you, as if they were awakening a memory buried deep within? If so, you are not alone. And more importantly, this feeling is not random. It is not just a passing curiosity, but it is a call from something beyond time, beyond history, beyond the limits of what we have been told about our past and our place in the universe. Most people go through life accepting the modern world as the pinnacle of human advancement. We look at technology, science, and progress as proof that we are the most enlightened generation to have ever lived. But deep down, some of us sense that something is missing, that despite all our knowledge, we have lost something far more valuable. That buried beneath the ruins of forgotten civilizations, hidden within cryptic symbols and ancient texts, there is a wisdom that modern society has overlooked, or perhaps even deliberately erased. Why is it that when we see the pyramids of Egypt, the stone temples of the Maya, the intricate mandalas of Tibetan monks, or the runic carvings of the Norse, we feel a strange familiarity? Why do these remnants of the past evoke something deeper than mere historical interest? Could it be that we are not just looking at history, but at something we were once a part of?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
If you have ever felt inexplicably drawn to ancient knowledge, it is because something inside you is remembering. Something buried deep in your consciousness is being activated. Think about it. Why do certain symbols, certain rituals, certain myths resonate with you more than others? Why do some people feel an unshakable connection to ancient Egypt, while others feel drawn to Vedic teachings or shamanic traditions or the lost knowledge of Atlantis? What if these feelings are not just interests, but echoes of something you have lived before? We are taught to believe that we are born as blank slates, that our consciousness begins with this life and ends with it. But what if that is not true? What if the reason you feel drawn to certain ancient traditions is because you have encountered them before, because a part of you remembers? This is not just speculation. Across different spiritual traditions, there is a shared belief that knowledge is never truly lost, it only waits to be remembered. The Hermetic texts speak of how as above, so below, reflects the eternal truth of the universe, a truth that has been known and forgotten countless times. The Vedic scriptures describe the cycles of time where humanity repeatedly falls into ignorance, only to awaken again. The ancient mystery schools of Egypt, Greece, and Mesopotamia all taught that wisdom is not something new to be discovered, but something ancient to be uncovered. Could this be why you feel drawn to these teachings? Because they are not just external knowledge, but internal memories. But here's the real question: if you are feeling this call, what are you supposed to do with it? Are you meant to simply read, study, and collect information? Or is something greater being asked of you? The truth is, knowledge alone is not enough. Understanding ancient wisdom intellectually is like looking at a map but never taking the journey. The real power of ancient knowledge lies in experiencing it and in living it, in allowing it to transform your perception, your consciousness, your very being. This is where most people get stuck. They consume endless books, documentaries, and teachings, but they never take the next step. They never apply the wisdom. They never allow it to change them. And because of this, the knowledge remains external, something fascinating, but ultimately disconnected from their daily lives. But what if you took it deeper? What if, instead of just reading about ancient meditation techniques, you actually practiced them? What if, instead of just studying sacred symbols, you meditated on them, felt their energy, let them reveal their hidden meanings to you? What if, instead of just learning about ancient rituals, you performed them not as a reenactment, but as a living connection to something beyond time? This is where the real journey begins. Because ancient knowledge was never meant to be just studied, it was meant to be embodied. The wisdom of the past was not designed to be locked away in books, but to be lived and experienced. And if you are feeling drawn to it, then perhaps it is because you are being called to bring it back to life. To not just learn about the wisdom of the ancients, but to become a living expression of it. But how do you do this? How do you move beyond passive learning and step into direct experience? This is where we must go deeper. Because if you truly want to unlock the power of ancient knowledge, you must first understand something crucial, that this wisdom was never meant to be separated from spiritual practice, but it was never meant to be just words on a page. It was always connected to a way of life, a way of seeing, a way of being. And to truly access it, you must align yourself with the same consciousness that the ancients operated from. This means something profound. It means that the wisdom you seek is not outside of you. It is within you. The reason you feel drawn to it is because it is already a part of you. It is not something foreign that you are trying to learn, it is something familiar that you are trying to remember. And the only way to truly remember is to awaken the same state of consciousness that the ancients lived in. This requires more than just study. It requires transformation. It requires shifting your perception, your awareness, your very vibration to match the frequency of the knowledge you are seeking. And this is where the journey takes a dramatic turn. Because once you begin to align yourself with this ancient wisdom, not just intellectually, but energetically, you will start to notice something extraordinary. The world around you will no longer look the same. You will begin to see through the illusion of modern conditioning. You will start to recognize patterns, symbols, and synchronicities that you never noticed before. You will feel a deep inner knowing, a certainty that cannot be explained by logic alone. And most importantly, you will begin to experience the same mystical states of awareness that the ancient sages, shamans, and initiates spoke of. This is where we must go next. Because if you are feeling this call, then the question is no longer just why, the question is what now? What do you do with this pull toward ancient wisdom? How do you move beyond fascination and into transformation? How do you awaken the same consciousness that allowed the ancients to perceive reality in ways we have forgotten? The answer lies in something few people truly understand: the hidden power of initiation. But because ancient knowledge was never meant to be accessed casually. It was always passed down through sacred rites, through direct experience, through a process of transformation that changed the seeker at the deepest level. And if you are feeling drawn to this wisdom, then perhaps you, too, are being called to take the first step on this path. The hidden power of initiation, why ancient knowledge was never meant to be accessed casually. There is a reason why the deepest spiritual knowledge of ancient civilizations was never written down for the masses. There is a reason why it was guarded, hidden, passed only through secret rites, sacred ceremonies, and direct experience. It was never meant to be consumed like ordinary information. It was never meant to be casually studied, memorized, or debated. True ancient knowledge was designed to be lived, to be embodied, to be activated through personal transformation. And this is why initiation was required. What is initiation? It is not just a ritual or ceremony. It is a process of death and rebirth. It is the destruction of the old self and the awakening of something higher. In the ancient world, those who sought wisdom were not simply given knowledge they had to prove they were ready to receive it. They had to walk through fire, face their fears, confront their illusions, and surrender everything they thought they knew. Only then, when they had shown their willingness to let go of their lower self, were they given access to the deeper mysteries. This is why, in almost every ancient tradition, initiation was central to spiritual awakening. In Egypt, initiates underwent trials in the pyramids, spending nights in total darkness, facing visions that tested their very soul. In Greece, the Eleusinian mysteries led seekers through profound psychedelic and symbolic experiences that shattered their perception of reality. In shamanic traditions, those called to the path had to undergo isolation, fasting, and encounters with the spirit world to prove their readiness. Even in the East, monks and practitioners spent years in meditation, enduring hardships that purified their minds before they were entrusted with the highest teachings. But in today's world, everything has been reversed. Knowledge is no longer something you must earn, it is something you can Google in seconds. Initiation has been replaced with convenience. Sacred wisdom has been turned into entertainment, something people consume without ever allowing it to transform them. And this is why most people, no matter how much they read or study, never truly awaken. Because ancient knowledge was never designed to be absorbed passively. It was designed to change you. If you are feeling drawn to ancient wisdom, you must ask yourself, are you just collecting information, or are you ready for initiation? Are you just fascinated by mystical traditions, or are you willing to undergo the transformation required to live them? Because the truth is, the knowledge itself is not what holds the power. The power lies in who you become when you are ready to receive it. This is why, in the ancient world, initiation often involved symbolic death. The initiate had to die before they could be reborn. This did not mean physical death, it meant the death of the false self. The death of ego, the death of attachment, the death of everything that kept them bound to illusion. Only when they had surrendered everything could they access the higher truths. And this is where most people hesitate. Because true initiation is not easy. It is not comfortable. It is not something that can be achieved by merely reading books or watching videos. It is something that demands everything from you. So the question is, are you ready for that? Are you ready to go beyond fascination and step into transformation? Are you willing to let go of everything you think you know, to face your fears, to surrender control, to allow the ancient knowledge you seek to change you at the deepest level? Because if you are not, then the wisdom will remain locked away, just as it was for those who were unprepared in the ancient world. But if you are ready, if you feel the call not just to learn, but to become something greater, then the path of initiation is still open. It has never been closed. The ancient teachers may be gone, the temples may have crumbled, but the process remains. And those who are truly ready will find their way to it, not through force, not through seeking external validation, but through an inner shift. A willingness to let go of the superficial and step into the unknown. Because here is the great secret, the deepest knowledge is not something you find, it is something that finds you when you are ready. And readiness is not measured by how much you know, but by how much you are willing to unlearn. It is measured by your ability to step beyond the ordinary mind, beyond logic, beyond fear, and into direct experience. This is where the real journey begins. And in the next part, we will explore the next stage of this process, the shift in perception that occurs when you truly live ancient wisdom, rather than just study it. Because once you cross the threshold, nothing looks the same again. Reality itself begins to shift, and the world you thought you knew begins to reveal its deeper layers. The shift in perception, how ancient knowledge unlocks hidden truths about reality. Once you step beyond the level of merely studying ancient knowledge and begin to live it, something profound happens. Your perception of reality itself begins to shift. The world that once seemed ordinary, predictable, and structured by logic starts to reveal hidden layers, subtle energies, and deeper patterns that were always there but went unnoticed. It is as if a veil has been lifted, and you are no longer just looking at reality, you are seeing through it. This is why the ancient initiates emphasized direct experience over intellectual understanding. They knew that true wisdom is not found in books, it is found in awareness. It is not something you acquire, but something you awaken to. And once it is awakened, you can never see the world the same way again. You begin to recognize that everything, every event, every symbol, every interaction is interconnected, infused with meaning and intelligence. You start to notice synchronicities, those seemingly coincidental events that align too perfectly to be random. You feel an unseen force guiding you, nudging you toward deeper realizations. But this shift in perception is not just about seeing the mystical, it is about seeing truth. The illusions that once governed your mind begin to dissolve. You start to see through the conditioning, the false narratives, the societal structures designed to keep you asleep. You recognize that most people are living in a dream, trapped in cycles of distraction and fear, unaware of the deeper reality that surrounds them. And this realization is both liberating and unsettling. Because once you see the illusion, you can no longer participate in it in the same way. You can no longer blindly accept what you are told. You can no longer unsee what has been revealed. This is where the true power of ancient knowledge lies, not in abstract concepts, but in the ability to awaken something within you that changes your entire experience of existence. And the deeper you go, the more the world itself becomes a teacher. You begin to understand why ancient traditions use symbols, myths, and rituals, because they were never just stories or decorations. They were keys designed to trigger something in the subconscious, to activate dormant parts of the mind, to align you with greater forces beyond the physical. And when this happens, life itself becomes a form of initiation. But every experience, every challenge, every moment of stillness reveals a deeper lesson. You start to realize that the universe is not random, it is communicating with you constantly. The question is, are you listening? Are you paying attention to the signs, the subtle messages, the patterns unfolding in your life? Or are you still caught in the distractions of the ordinary mind, missing what is right in front of you? Because here is the truth: ancient knowledge does not just inform you, it restructures you. It rewires your perception, shifts your consciousness, and aligns you with a reality that most people never glimpse. And once this happens, your very presence changes. You no longer react to life in the same way. Fear loses its grip. External validation becomes meaningless. But you no longer seek purpose, you become purpose. And this is where the deeper mysteries begin to reveal themselves. Because the ultimate secret of ancient knowledge is this: Reality is not something you are separate from. You are creating it. But what does this mean in practical terms? How do you live this awareness in a world that is still asleep? How do you navigate daily life when you have awakened to something deeper? This is where we must go next. Because once the illusion has been seen through, the question is no longer just about knowledge, it is about mastery, or about embodying wisdom in every action, every thought, every breath. Mastering reality, how to live as an awakened being in an unconscious world. Once you awaken to the deeper truths hidden within ancient knowledge, the real challenge begins not in understanding, but in living this wisdom in a world that still operates in illusion. This is where most people struggle. It is one thing to glimpse higher states of awareness in meditation, in moments of synchronicity, or in the stillness of contemplation. But it is another thing entirely to carry that awareness into daily life, to embody it in every action, every decision, every interaction. The modern world is designed to pull you back into unconsciousness. Distractions are everywhere. Social conditioning is relentless, but fear, doubt, and external pressures constantly try to reassert control over your mind. And this is why true mastery is not just about awakening, it is about staying awake. It is about maintaining clarity even when surrounded by confusion. It is about walking through the illusions of the world without being deceived by them. So, how do you do this? How do you remain anchored in higher awareness while engaging with a society that is still largely asleep? The first step is to recognize that you do not have to change the world, you only have to change yourself. Many people, after awakening to deeper truths, feel an urge to wake up others, to expose illusions, to fight against the ignorance that they now see so clearly. But this is a trap. The moment you make your awakening about changing others, you fall back into the game of the ego. You become attached to outcomes, frustrated by resistance, pulled back into conflict. And in doing so, you lose the very peace and clarity you have worked so hard to attain. The true path is not about forcing change, it is about embodying change. When you live from a place of deep awareness, your very presence becomes a catalyst. But you do not need to tell people what you have learned, they will feel it in your energy, in your words, in the way you move through life. And those who are ready will be drawn to it naturally. This is how true wisdom spreads, not through argument or persuasion, but through resonance. But to maintain this state, you must cultivate inner discipline. Awakening is not a one-time event, it is a continuous practice. But just as the ancient initiates underwent lifelong training to deepen their mastery, so too must you commit to refining your awareness every day. This means guarding your mind against distractions that pull you into lower states of consciousness. It means being mindful of what you consume, not just food, but information, conversations, and energies. It means creating space for silence, for reflection, for practices that keep you aligned with higher truths. One of the greatest tests of mastery is how you respond to challenges. It is easy to feel enlightened when everything is peaceful, when you are alone in nature, when life is flowing effortlessly. But what happens when you are confronted with conflict? When people misunderstand you? When the world around you seems chaotic and irrational? This is where your true level of awareness is revealed. Because the awakened being does not react, they respond. They do not get pulled into emotional turbulence, they remain centered, observing without attachment. They're choosing their actions consciously rather than being driven by unconscious impulses. This does not mean becoming passive. It does not mean avoiding challenges or suppressing emotions, but it means mastering them. It means knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to let things unfold, that when to engage with the world and when to step back and realign. And most importantly, it means moving through life with love, not the conditioned, transactional love of the ego, but the deep, unconditional love that arises from recognizing the divine essence in all things. Because in the end, this is what true mastery leads to: not just knowledge, not just power, but love. The love that sees beyond illusions, beyond separation, beyond fear. The love that does not seek to control or possess, but simply to be. When you reach this state, you no longer feel the need to escape the world, because you are the world. You no longer feel the need to search for truth, because you are truth. And you no longer feel the need to awaken, because you realize that you were never truly asleep. The journey is complete, and yet it is only beginning. Because now you are not just a seeker of ancient knowledge, you are a living expression of it. And that is the greatest initiation of all.